There were a couple of things that I had to touch on that we talked about in our pre-show meeting that we just have to get to. The first one. There's a guy who I have always been enamored with coming back and playing for the 49ers. When Randy Moss in 2012 joined the Niners, he had a pretty good year. And I think a lot of people didn't realize how important he was for that 2012 team, because when you go to the games, you'd see the coverage that the safeties would have to play, which would open up the field for Vernon Davis, Frank Gore, Michael Crabtree. And that guy's name was Randy Moss. And Randy Moss decided to not come back in 2013, or at least the team decided to not bring him back. And me and my boy, White Mike, a.k.a. Mikey C., we were just banging the drums. Bring back T.O. Bring him out of retirement. And we had a joke, and I said the same thing about Jerry Rice. But it's a joke, but it was dead serious. Jerry Rice, at 50 years old, could catch 4 passes yesterday. Like, no doubt about it. Now, he's a little older than that now. T.O. is 48 years old right now. I believe he could catch 4 or 5 passes in an NFL game tomorrow. I 100% agree. He ran a 4.38 yesterday at 48 years old.
It's unbelievable.
On a track.
It's unbelievable.
Now, would his body be able to hold up for 16 weeks? I don't know. I'm neither here nor there. 48 years old. He ran a 4.38.
That's crazy.
On a track with a bunch of other people, and he blew by everyone yesterday.
I mean, didn't I see something? Isn't that faster than the 40 that he clocked when he was a rookie?
Yeah. So I have a question for you. It got me to thinking, okay? Barry Bonds has obviously been retired long enough to where he did the full 10 years on the Hall of Fame ballot, and he's now off the ballot. If you could have one of these guys come back for one game, is it T.O., or is it Barry Bonds? Because you'd restart his Hall of Fame clock. You wanted to see one game from Bonds at his age currently, or one game from T.O. at his age currently?
Well, this is going to be an interesting one because my initial answer is Barry Bonds. But that's also because Barry Bonds is what got me into Giants baseball in the first place.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was infatuated by this man. Who is this dude who is just cranking jacks? Who is this dude just with the camera flashes all on him every single at-bat, and then you come to realize, oh, he's a historic baseball player. And really, 2001, I was 8 years old, so that's when sports can become an influence on you, and athletes can. Barry Bonds would be I'd need to see him at least come back for one more time. I need to see him with the stance, and he also needs to come in with the earring, with the cross. He needs to have the whole bit with the arm guard or whatever it is. I mean, T.O. would be fantastic, but just me personally, I'd want to see Barry Bonds. And then you also have just as you mentioned at the end, the resetting of the Hall of Fame clock, and I think he would get in.
I love how I bring up him running T.O., running a 4.38, and everyone coming in, it's unofficial. It was a guy with a hand clock. 48-year-old ran basically a 4.4. Whether it's
crazy.
Come on, people. Come on. If you're not enamored by that elite athleticism, then I don't know you're missing the point of the conversation.
So if it was official, what would it be? Like a 4.39? You know what I mean?
Who cares? It's incredible. I'm just blown away at how he's kept his body in such incredible shape. Him and Jerry look better now than they did when they played. How is that even possible?
We're going to be joined here by Willa Marin. I want to look up the combine results for this year and just look at the 40s and see where he stacks up against these other players. Let's go to Will in Marin, though, who wants to weigh in. Willa Marin.
Come on, it's a
fun
conversation.
Would you rather have T.O. or would you rather have Bonds?
I'd rather have T.O., and this is why. I think having T.O. would be so sick because even before he ran this 40, he raced Tyreek Hill like a year or so ago for charity, and he lost to Tyreek Hill by 2 foot, by 2 steps. Also, watching T.O. in that Arena League was such a joke. He was smoking cats, and he was wide open. The quarterback was so bad he couldn't even keep up with his route running to get T.O. the ball. Barry Bonds, I would love to watch, but I think if you've watched Bernie Mac on Mr. 3000, I think if the beer cup fell, it would have a crack. I love Barry Bonds, but I think he left on his own terms great. He had 22 home runs.
28.
Had a solid 230. I think that's all he had. I love Barry Bonds, but I'd love to see T.O. take one over the top against the Rams and shake those pom-poms again, baby. Let's go.
I'm totally with you on this one. Look, again, there's certain players and athletes and people in life that you see at an older age, you're like, oh, yeah, that guy can still play, right? Barry Bonds' final year, I believe it was 28 home runs and a 272 batting average.
Yes.
He would lead the Giants this year in all of those stats. That was at 43 years old with no protection.
That's crazy, 272 with 28 homers. Remember that Jeter doc when he said, "Oh yeah, 2010, I had a down year. I think I hit 270." Like, what?
Yeah.
You'd be leading the Giants right now if you were having the down year. But I got the numbers up, by the way, for 40 yards. So 4.38 is what he ran, you're saying,
Yeah,
right?
that's what they said it was.
Right.
Whether it was or it wasn't, he's the oldest guy on the track running with a bunch of youngsters.
So let's take a look here.
And he did run with Tyreek, by the way. He's right about that.
Now, where do you think he would rank amongst wide receivers from this year running the combine? So if you had to take the combine from this year and you take the 40-yard dashes out of all the wide receivers,
I don't even know.
Where do you think he'd rank?
20th, 25th, 100th? I don't even know. I have no idea.
I don't know what the other decimals are, the other numbers here. He'd be 8th amongst wide receivers.
Oh, man.
He'd be 8th.
And he's 6'3".
One of those guys that's actually higher. You know who's 4th in from the combine? Danny Gray.
Danny Gray.
He ran a 4.33, 4th in the combine amongst wide receivers. Yeah, 4.38. The guy who ran that was Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Where's Garrett Wilson with? I think he's with New York. Is he with the Jets? I think he's with the Jets.
The Jets drafted him. He was the first Ohio State wide receiver taken off the board.
All right, Max in Oakland Hills wants to weigh in. If you had to pick one of these players to come out of retirement and play what? So what's the?
It's just one game.
Just
one
one
game.
game.
More fun.
One game.
Bonds or T.O. I just want to have fun with this.
Bonds or T.O. Let's go to Max in Oakland Hills who wants to weigh in. Max, what's going on?
Yay, how you doing? Before I answer that, I want to answer your question. When you were a kid and Barry Bonds was jacking those homers and you were asking, who is this guy?
Yeah.
I want to tell you that guy was Frank Robinson on dope. That's who that guy was.
So who's your pick, Max?
I don't know how T.O. got into the conversation. I kind of missed earlier.
Well, he ran on a track and he was running against a bunch of other people, and they unofficially clocked him at 4.38 at 48 years old. In the 40.
That's amazing.
It is.
I'd still go with Jerry Rice.
Yeah. The crazy thing with Jerry is that I think Jerry believes that he could still get, 8-9 catches in a game.
No
Especially
doubt.
with the way that they run offenses now, like, boom, boom, let me just throw you a quick one.
I think actually, isn't Jerry going to be joining us here pretty soon, isn't he?
I threw passes to Jerry.
Oh, my God.
In the backyard.
All right, Matt in San Jose. Matt in San Jose, 888
He also
957.
complimented me on my spiral.
9570. Who would you take? One more game. Come
My
out of
highest
retirement.
athletic achievement of all time.
Barry Bonds or T.O.? You had a softball game last night. Matt in San Jose.
Okay, so I was huge on Barry Bonds as a kid, so I would go Barry Bonds for my personal reasons.
Okay.
But the guy a couple calls ago said Mr. 3000, and there was a crack in the beer bottle. There absolutely was. But the Brewers stunk. T-Rex Pennebaker was all they had. The Giants' best player would be Barry Bonds today. You put him in the lineup today, he's batting cleanup. It's kind of a no-brainer in that regard. I would take him. But T.O. going over the top in a Kyle Shanahan offense, oh, man.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
He did a home run derby when he was with the Marlins. Bonds was coaching with the Marlins, and he did a home run derby against Giancarlo Stanton, who was 20-something years younger than him.
Mm-hmm.
Bonds beat him in a batting practice home run
crazy.
derby. Yeah, and Stanton admitted it.
I mean, that's just too much, man.
If you think these guys lose it, you're tripping.
Agreed. I mean, did you see? I think it was his. I want to say it was his 63rd birthday the other day. But Julio Franco, like they showed him taking hacks in the batting cage. Will Clark posts stuff on his Twitter all the time of him taking hacks.
If you don't think Will could go up the middle right now, well, it'd be into the shift. But if you don't think he can get a hit right now, you're tripping.
I would love to see Barry though.
Will hitting in the basement, the video that everyone sees all the time, that sound off his bat.
It's insane.
I could let everyone in this station, every single person, maybe Alan Stiles could do it, but everybody in this station could swing off the tee, 100 swings, and you wouldn't make that sound that Will Clark makes.
No, and with how easy it looks. Like he
Effortless.
it really is.
Effortless.
Just boom, boom. All right, you know what? Let's go to Austin in Redwood City, who actually wants to weigh in on Trey Lance here. We got a few minutes. We got the changeover coming up with Willard and Dibbs. We also got the flex moment. That's coming up as well. But Austin in Redwood City wants to get your call in here to talk about Trey. What's going on, Austin?
Hey, nothing much. Hey, before I get in with that Trey, man, hey, Barry Bonds, I don't know. Today is the game. He might just get walked. And, as Giants, how we don't capitalize off these runs, I don't know about that one. But I definitely take Terrell Owens. We like that celebration and that trash talk over the top after he gets a touchdown. But with that being said, Kaepernick, man, Shanahan is finishing with Jim Harbaugh didn't do with Kaepernick. Trey Lance is a Kaepernick type player, man. I like that. But that's all I got.
No, good call.
Yep.
Good call. And you know what's funny about the Bonds thing? We were joking about this morning. If Bonds played on this Giants team, could you imagine? Well, they're facing Kershaw today. You know, Bonds' numbers aren't as good as we want against lefties. Let's sit him out.
Oh, man, we're playing the Diamondbacks, and you're telling me that all-star Joe Mantiply is coming in the 7th inning, and you get a lefty-on-lefty matchup? Sorry. Slater, get ready. Get your bat. Get the weight. Let's go.
Could you imagine those situations, pinch hitting for some of those guys? They would have strangled the coach right there on the spot, the manager.
Yes, there would have been another Barry Bonds, Jeff Kent type of moment in the dugout.
Another reason you guys take Bonds, too, instead of T.O. is it resets his Hall of Fame candidacy.
Yeah,
That's the number one thing for me.
Yes. Yeah, they need to do that. They just have him play one game. One game at the end of a 162-game season, reset that Hall of Fame clock, get Rob Manfred out of here, get everything, get a new regime in baseball for the next 10 years.
Well, you know, they actually asked Gabe that specific question. You know what he had to say?
Oh, my God, I didn't know.
Well, they're probably worried about blocking at bats for other guys. You know, you got to get Bryce Johnson his ABs, and Barry's just going to take that space up.
You got to make room.
Yeah.
Got to make room.
Got to make room. You guys are just killing me
From the 650, Bonds would lose his mind. From the 510, MLB teams should bring back their legend players during training camp to let them DH for a game or two. That would be cool to see. Bonds gets a few ABs during spring training. Yeah, I agree. Like, I just talked to you about this with Pete Carroll. You know, there's the video that surfaced of Pete Carroll throwing a football and actually going through a drill.
He looks great.
Both gloves on the hand.
I'm defending Pete Carroll.
He does.
And you know I don't like him.
No,
it's
really,
awesome.
He really does.
Yes.
Like, I love that he's getting his hand in the dirt. But I'd love to see a coach's game, you know, like prior to the Pro Bowl.
Andy Reid.
Yes. Andy Reid, you've seen him throw a football. You've seen that video of him on the Rams.
You've seen Stan Van Gundy dribbling a basketball. It's the most incredible thing for most people. It's like, well, you don't think Stan Van Gundy could play hoops?
Dude, I'm not going to. That video surfaced on my Twitter, I think, 3 weeks ago.
Mad handle.
I was hypnotized by it.
Right?
I was like, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
So you do a little crossover, then behind the back, then you do it like that. Everyone looks at Stan Van Gundy and thinks, like, how is that dude? Like, this dude's a basketball coach? Like, when they first take a look at him, and then you see the moves. Same thing with Pete Carroll. It's good. It gives him validity. But I want to see the same thing with legends, though.
Well,